Planning Commission, Tuesday, March 10th. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bridget, you have some protocols.
I can go over those. We're live this evening on Channel 27 and on PCTV. We have Spanish interpretation, and we will allow 3 minutes for speaking in person, and then those of you that are on Zoom, I will go ahead and turn it back to Chair Gordon.
And it looks like we are short 2 planning commissioners. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Del Nagro.
Here.
Vice Chair Hernandez.
I am present.
And Chair Gorn.
I am here.
Absent, we have Commissioner Rems and Commissioner Ruddick.
Okay. I think Commissioner Rems is at a training session
Yes.
for the Planning Commission, so he's doing Planning Commission work. I wanted to, let's do the draft minutes. Let's approve those minutes.
We can't.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
We can't.
I realize that we have a Commissioner short.
I wasn't present for the last.
Oh, you weren't present. That's right.
Yeah, we can just hold off to the next meeting.
And I recused myself for half
Yes.
of it, which is weird, but okay.
We'll just hold off.
We'll hold those to next time. I'm going to open the public comment to anything that is not on the agenda tonight. So if you have anything to talk about that is not on the agenda, online, raise your hand, or in here, come to the podium. I am seeing none.
Yeah, I have none.
I am not opening public comment, and we are moving on to our first item, which is the Measure D rankings. Okoe, that one is yours.
Good evening, Chair Gorn and Planning Commissioners. Tonight I'll be presenting to you the scoring for the 2026 Measure D applications for outside of downtown. A little overview on the meeting. I'll take us through some background on Measure D, the review process and the scoring criteria. I'll overview the submittal summary for 2026, and we'll discuss staff's recommendations and the actions we're looking for from the Planning Commission tonight. So Measure D is the city's growth management system. This was approved via a voter initiative back in 1999 and first became effective in 2009 here in Half Moon Bay. It requires that all new residential units first receive a Measure D allocation before moving forward with other permitting, and can accommodate up to 1.5% of population growth annually. This is split between the downtown and the outside of downtown, with an additional 0.5% that can be allocated downtown at the council's discretion. This is approved, has been historically approved annually, therefore Measure D has been accommodating 1.5% annually. The purpose of Measure D is to manage the rate and quality of development in the city on an annual basis, and it provides for limited exemptions, just one-for-one replacements and density bonus units. Measure D can be broken down into 4 key phases, such as the annual unit authorization. This occurred back in December 2025 for this upcoming year. The initial application period, which we just went through in January. And then the scoring ratification is the phase that we are currently in, where we're asking the Planning Commission to finalize the scoring for 2026. And then, if applicable, there could be transfers later on. We'll discuss that briefly later in the presentation. The scoring ratification phase that we're in right now is only necessary if we receive more applications for allocations than are available. So this year, I'll discuss how many were available and how many were received, but this was the case where we received more people applying for allocations than we had to issue outside of downtown. When this process occurs, staff verifies the items selected by applicants in the scoring table as part of their application, and then the Planning Commission reviews and approves the scoring by April 1st each year. The scoring criteria can be found in section 1706120 of our municipal code. This is based on early Build It Green items, many of which today are required through various state requirements or building code requirements. Therefore, a lot of these criteria aren't applicable in the same way they used to be then. So in 2020, there were some minor revisions or interpretations made to the scoring criteria to remove some of this criteria from the scoring. And then in 2025, staff established a handbook to help guide applicants further through this process, help them understand the various questions that are part of the criteria, scoring criteria. And then generally, today we're seeing that many of these criteria are applying equally to applicants, or many applicants are seeking the maximum points they can within their control, and therefore we're seeing a lot of or minimal variation in the scoring. The scoring criteria is broken down into 6 categories. This is infill sites, home size, scale, and clustering, design for walkability and biking, design for safety and social gathering, design for diverse households, and landscaping. We do see more variation or more control within the applicant's ability to select scoring criteria in some of these categories than others, and some may be more location-based, which might be outside of the applicant's control and is based on the subject property. As part of the scoring process, applicants fill out a checklist that's located within the application, electing for what criteria they are willing to commit to as part of a future development project. Staff then review these applications and the criteria selected and revise where necessary to ensure that everybody is scoring correctly in line with the interpretation of the criteria. And then staff rank these applications based on that scoring, and we go through and notify all the applicants prior to this meeting of where they are expected to have their scoring finalized, and if they'd like to discuss their scores further or see a comparison. In 2026, some key observations. We received less applications than we have been in previous years. This may be due to the fact that last year we did have a transfer process, so that cleared a bit of our backlog that we were seeing over the last several years. Most applicants have pretty minimal availability to increase their scores. Maybe there's 1 or 2 points here and there for many of the applicants. And then this year, 75% of the allocations applied for were for ADUs. This year, there were 70 total allocations available. That's 47 downtown and 23 outside of downtown. Outside of downtown, however, there was a phasing agreement approved by the City Council in late 2025, which allowed for an affordable housing project at 940 Main Street to receive 17 allocations during this Measure D year and next Measure D year for a total of 34 allocations. So that did take up a portion of the allocations available to applicants in January this year. Therefore, only 6 were available, and we're asking you to finalize the scoring for and award tonight. Downtown, we received a total of 1 application for 2 allocations, so it was a single family and an ADU. Therefore, all the other downtown allocations remain available, and applicants downtown could continue to apply for those as long as they remain available, or up until September 1st. Outside of downtown, we received 21 submittals for a total of 26 allocations. This consisted of 5 applications for single families with ADUs, so those are 2 allocations each, 15 accessory dwelling units, and 1 single family. Tonight we're recommending that 5 ADUs receive allocations, but there is the next highest scoring applicant is seeking 2 allocations, and we only have 1 allocation out of those 6 left available. So we'll be asking for the Planning Commission to evaluate that tonight. There are 15 projects totaling 20 allocations that we'll be recommending for deferral that might be able to seek transfers if they remain available and the City Council elects to pursue transfers in September, or their next opportunity to apply would be January 2027. I know it's pretty small, but here's a breakdown of the scoring for this year. This is Exhibit A attached to the resolution, which is attachment 1 to the staff report. You can see in green, those are the submittals which we're recommending receive allocations tonight, all of which are ADUs. And in yellow, those are the 2 applicants that we would recommend the Planning Commission decide between or pursue another course if you choose. And then those in blue would be deferred to a transfer or a future year. And I can come back to this later during our discussion if you'd like. Tonight, we're asking that the Planning Commission determine how we should award the final allocation that's available. This could be awarded as 1 allocation to 544 Filbert Street, which is the next highest scoring applicant. We would recommend that they would receive an allocation for their ADU, and that would require them to then seek getting their single-family allocation via a transfer or in a future year. Or option 2 would be to go to the next single allocation seeking applicant, which would be 303 Filbert Street. We're also asking the Planning Commission to adopt a resolution to ratify the scoring for the January 2026 submittals. And then, if you wish, consider making recommendations to the City Council with respect to transfers if available in September. The next steps will be if Planning Commission's decision will be final unless it's appealed to the City Council. After September 1st, we may consider a transfer process, and then after that, as I mentioned, January 2027 is the next application window for applicants outside of downtown. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take it up here. Chris? Commissioner Del Negro?
Would you tell me a little bit more about how we got to the 70 units for the allocations? What's the mathematics for that?
The 70 units is based on persons per household, as well as the total population in Half Moon Bay, and so that persons per household is multiplied by the number of building permits from a previous year to account. Sorry, I'm definitely not explaining this well. My apologies. I'm trying to think back.
I think I understand. The reason I'm asking is because I did go back and look at the population of Half Moon Bay. We have not grown by 1% per year at all since 2000. In fact, we haven't grown at all since 2000 at all. So the allocation equation seems to be flawed at this point, in my opinion.
Correct. Well, staff, the allocation is considering it based off of the most recent census data. We use that data to then calculate what would 1% be in terms of the number of allocations and the persons per household being multiplied by those allocations would make up that 1% of the population growth. And so it is based on census data, but staff has considered that as we get further and further away from the 2020 census, that these numbers may become less and less accurate, and therefore we want to potentially look into that in future years.
I'm looking back to 2000. We have not changed. Our population is basically lower than it was in 2000. Our 1% growth isn't happening. So, when I do something in a study for the type of work I do, I look obviously what the plan expectation is, and then I look reverse and look at what has happened to see that my plan is actually generating the outcome expected. And we're not seeing a 1% growth rate at all. We're nowhere near that. We're at 0.
If I may add one more thing to your question, there may also be factors into that as to the number of applicants that we are seeing actually fulfill their Measure D allocations and build these units, and then the actual persons per household varying over time. So there are quite a few factors there, but I agree that we haven't quite seen that amount of population growth, but that's where
Okay.
we get that from.
I'll just chime in here. We also received direction from council in December to correct that number. So even though the way the math has been done over many years is not working for us now, next year, we're just going to reboot and start at the actual population. So, and then start
So
with
that number may-
possibly a different mathematical
So
formula.
the mathematics may change, so therefore we may actually achieve the 1% growth, at least upwards, at least a positive growth instead of a stagnant growth.
Did I say that right, Akoe?
I think what you're saying is that it might be fewer allocations, because it's based on real population rather than
That would be the
a
result,
1% growth
is that there would be
population.
fewer allocations. But at some point, we have to correct the number, rather than keep going with a number that's off base.
Is it
And so-
possible that the number of anticipated people per unit is wrong? And that's why we're not seeing the growth, or we're just not seeing the building match the numbers that we're?
If I may, I think there's a combination of all of these factors coming into play. If we look back typically with Measure D, we have pretty good data back until 2019 or so. So looking back till then, one, we aren't necessarily, up until 2020, we weren't even seeing 1% of people applying for these allocations. We were having leftover allocations at the end of the year. Even when we're doing transfers, we typically have the bonus downtown allocations left over. So I know that would still be just 1% there, but that combined with exodus from the city, so people leaving the city, and then new construction and whether or not those are being occupied, are building permits being fulfilled with these allocations. I think all of that is playing a role, plus what Leslie is talking about with our actual data that we're utilizing and the calculation to calculate these allocations. All of this coming together, I think, plays into that, but we wouldn't be able to land it without like a major study on one single aspect. I'm not sure if I'm getting too off on a tangent.
It just feels to me like Measure D has a purpose. We're under Measure D's allocation target, and that's what I'm kind of curious is what's the
Well,
equation for
I
that?
think the purpose of Measure D is to limit it to
Correct.
1%. And so we are limiting it to 1%. And by going to the real population figures, the numbers are actually going to be lower.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little surprised with all the talk about Measure D, so much, everyone talking about Measure D all the time and how hard it is, that the people who get Measure Ds don't build necessarily. And I think that's kind of more the issue to address, if there's something to address.
All right. Better understanding. Thanks.
I
Vice
had
Chair
a
Hernandez.
clarifying question. Why do we wait until September to go back to the city council to do a reallocation? Is it possible that we can do this in 30 days?
It is in the code that downtown, or it doesn't just apply to downtown, so when I'm saying downtown, I want to be clear that the process applies to the same way in the code to applicants outside of downtown and downtown, but there is a different procedure if there's more applications than allocations. So typically, because downtown, we have less applicants than there are available allocations. In those circumstances, the application period is noted to remain open all the way until September 1st. And then at that point, the code then allows that transfers could be considered after that September 1st deadline. That is in our code, which is why we would not be able to do that at a quicker pace.
Is there anything in the original Measure D language that requires it be 6 months later?
Not that I've seen.
So if city council wanted to change this, it would be at their discretion to make they could make the allocation process in 30 days or 60 days if they change the code.
Correct. With code amendments, From my understanding with code amendments, this would likely be an administrative amendment that we could do to the code.
But city council would have to vote on it and approve, or would it be something that's not at staff level?
It would be brought forward for approval by both the planning commission and then ultimately adopted by the city council.
And would require an LCP amendment.
Correct, and the coastal commission would be approving it as well.
Okay.
Which was not to throw a wrench in there, but I also just want to point out that we are working on code amendments to Measure D, those that were required in the housing element, and I think it's worthwhile to look at other potential amendments that could improve the process without damaging the intent.
That's a great idea.
I have no other questions at this point.
I had a question, clarifying question. So how many in downtown Measure Ds are available?
So currently, there would be 45 available downtown, but for transfers, only the initial 0.5% are available. So that would currently leave 22 allocations available for transfer currently.
So everybody on the list could get a Measure D if we would, and will get a Measure D in the transfer from City Council, assuming that they do that, which they always do.
Assuming that they're all available and we don't get any more applications during that time and council elects to award them all, then currently everyone could potentially get one.
So really all this work on the ranking system, all that, is important, but everyone on the list can have a Measure D. It's just that they have to wait till September 1st because of the code, and if that could change, then everyone would get the Measure Ds at about the same time. I mean, if we could change it, correct? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it would just depend on how we would implement it into our code amendments and then, of course, how many people are applying year over year. But I will say historically, even going back to when we were issuing all the allocations downtown and outside of downtown, typically there was a pretty, those were our peak years in like 2021. And since then, we've consistently been seeing overall less applications than would be available within the 1.5%, at least in the last 3 years, I believe.
So all of the Measure Ds would be available even with the 17 that are set aside by City Council for the affordable housing project.
For this year with transfers,
Yeah.
potentially, yeah.
Provided nobody comes forth between now and September with a new project that gobbles up those Measure D. Could be.
We can take this for discussion.
Do you want to open it for
I'm opening it for
public
general
comment?
discussion.
Okay.
Oh, public comment, sorry. I am ready to open it up to public comment. If anybody wants to talk. I don't have any green cards. If anybody wants to raise their hand online, and I do have one online.
Yeah.
I will open public comment. Amy Miller, you are up.
Go ahead, Amy.
Hi, thank you. My name is Amy Miller, and I'm the owner of 59 Guerrero. We did apply for Measure D allocation this year. We're in the Miramar neighborhood, so we're in one of those properties where there are, just by location, we don't have access to all of the facilities that you do downtown. So my understanding is our application was fantastic, except for those items which are obviously beyond our control. And I just wanted to introduce myself. My family's new to Half Moon Bay. We moved here in March of 2024, and we are in hopes to build an ADU to bring my aging parents from Santa Cruz to Half Moon Bay to live with us so that we can take care of them. We've already blended into the neighborhood well. Everyone in the neighborhood's excited for my parents to join us, and so I just wanted to introduce myself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And welcome to Half Moon Bay.
There you go.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience? No, we're good. And anyone online, raise your hand.
Oh, we have one more.
Okay,
David?
that's not me.
Go ahead, David.
I'm going to attempt to unmute. Please confirm if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is David Beaumont, and I'm representing the Cary Trusts. We have one awarded point in your allocation system tonight. If this is not the time to speak to that, I can defer this until a later point. I just heard that it was that the chair opened up for public comment. Can you inform me before I proceed?
You can talk about anything you want.
Well, no, should I wait until a later part of your session to speak regarding that? That's what I'm asking.
No, go ahead.
No, now is good.
Okay, great. I'm appreciative of both Commissioner Hernandez and Domagro's comments and inquiries regarding September as to why. That's something I've always wondered. And also Michelle Domagro's study or review of the less than 1% growth. Those are both very apropos. Before I go directly to the matter with respect to which I'm here this evening, because there's a potential awarding of a split awarding for that, I just wanted to, for the newer commissioners there, just very briefly recap that in 2022 and 2023, there were efforts underway, and in fact, it was reviewed by the city attorney to place a citizen-sponsored initiative to defer, or rather to exempt ADUs from the process. State HCD was already aware of that and was concerned about that. And at that time, this is 3 planning directors ago, we were told that the city was going to be revising that shortly. This was 2022. That did not occur at any time between now and then, the ensuing 4 years. More recently, in October of 2024, State HCD's, the enforcement arm, informed the city that it was in violation of the newest version of the state legislation with respect to, quote, local growth control ordinances as being exempt, or rather exempting ADUs from them. So it has continued to be a mystery as to why ADUs are deemed and required a full point. There are some workarounds now, a full year and a half, and actually 3 years later after these efforts to look at a half a point or a quarter point or something of that nature. It's just unclear because the state legislation is absolutely crystal clear. It says local growth control ordinances notwithstanding, ADUs are not to be counted. And unfortunately, ADUs, as you can see, aside from developments, affordable housing developments, are all counted in the system. Another component of that is affordable housing. Again, in 2022, 3 directors ago, there was an effort from staff, directed by city staff, to have affordable housing also exempted. It's notable that within your very own ordinance, density bonuses, and this goes back to 2009, are exempt from that for affordable, and yet the actual affordable units are not exempt. That's a head scratcher. How are affordable units not exempt, but the density bonus affordable units exempt? So moving on to the present and the matter before us now, you have, the staff rather, has proposed, there's 2 options, that ours, which is a single family home plus an ADU, they're proposing to award only 1 point, which is 1 unit. And we understand why staff needs to do so, because you only have a certain number of points. And so we could accept that, except that it's inverted. In the staff proposed option tonight, presented as option 1, it suggests that the ADU be awarded, but not the house, and then in September, the house would be awarded. Well, if you both look at both state law and your local ordinances, in fact, you can't do anything with an awarded Measure D ADU because it cannot be built first and there's nothing that can happen. So we would be basically waiting for several months. If you invert that and instead award the point for the home, of course the home cannot be constructed, nor even can a building permit be submitted. However, the somewhat lengthy process, which is very involved, it involves staff time, it involves hearings, it involves a design review, that process could be being put forth during the summertime, so to speak, until your September date for that residence. Obviously, the building permit could not be issued, and in fact, the coastal development permit can't be issued because the full terms of that, but at least the design review and the applications and all of the necessary reviews that staff conducts could be engaged with between April and August. And then in September, the second point for the awarding of the ADU could go forward.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Sorry, go ahead.
can you just wrap up pretty soon?
Oh, okay, very good.
Thank you. You went over
So,
time.
well, at the very, this evening, just very briefly, I did hear from one staff member who was concerned that he wasn't sure that could happen because of the coastal development permit requirement. However, your section 17, the applicability section very clearly says that an applicant seeking to construct must apply for the allocation. We're not seeking to construct at this point. We're compromising with you and asking that you invert the 1 point instead of being an ADU for a home. If there's further clarity necessary, I realize my time is up. I'm happy to explain the basis for that, which actually harkens directly to your ordinance. It's in several instances, which I have before me. So
Yeah, thank you very
my
much.
time.
And if you could stay, we may call on you later. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else in the audience or online who would like to talk on this issue? I am seeing none. We okay? I'm going to close public hearing and take it back to the dais. Does anyone, Commissioner Del Negro?
I still had a question of the ADU, in fact, before the last speaker spoke, which is the single-family housing unit versus an ADU, that there's no priority given to one or the other directly, or there is, according to the 6 criteria.
The ADUs are pretty heavily incentivized via the criteria. Some of the criteria provide points for just having an ADU. Some contribute to the density factor, which plays into the scoring. So ADUs are more incentivized than single families, which is also part of why you see the majority of single families including an ADU in their submittal, because without, single families tend to struggle to score high enough to compete.
Okay, that's, I'm assuming for the density part and the infill part is where they score high.
Yes, there's a point on there where you get 5 points just for having an ADU included with the submittal. For the density, you get a minimum 5 points if you have an ADU included with the submittal, and you may score higher depending on the size of your lot. Infill is less affected by incorporating an ADU or not, but we do award full points for infill for ADUs.
Okay. Landscaping, obviously, is there any difference in points between single family and ADUs?
For ADUs, typically, for the majority of items, they receive full points unless there is something that is not existing there or clearly doesn't match the criteria in there, such as like there's one on impervious surface. If the whole site is mostly impervious surface and it's an ADU, they wouldn't receive points there. But there are some criteria where the interpretation is that an ADU has minimal ability to impact the overall landscaping of the site or to make some of those changes, and therefore ADUs tend to be awarded full points on many of those items.
All right, thank you.
Can I ask you what the reasoning is to recommend the ADU portion of this project?
Yeah, this stems partially back to the discussion from last year when we ran into this issue as well. Part of the thought process is that awarding the ADU first ensures that they have to still include a single family, or include the ADU with their submittal. You couldn't have an ADU without a single family, and therefore, throughout the process, if there were some change in staffing or something where somebody came in and was looking at it, they would see that, okay, only an ADU's been awarded here, they still need a single family, versus it potentially slipping through the cracks as a single family only application because so much of that scoring is tied to that ADU.
So if they had just submitted as a single family home, they would not be at the spot in the list where they are.
Correct.
Is there anything that prevents the applicant from going through the design review process if we, as a planning commission, say, hey, let's leave the allocation the way staff have recommended it, but let them go through the design process between now and September with the assumption they're going to get an allocation? Is there anything that, like, are you prohibited from allowing them to go through the design process?
So the applicant, based on our code, would not be able to apply for the coastal development permit, but that wouldn't prohibit the applicant from applying for preliminary review of the project. They would still have to seek a coastal development permit later on, but you could apply for preliminary review without your Measure D allocation because you're not getting any entitlements from that. You're just getting feedback to inform your project in the future, ensure you can be well prepared for a complete submittal when you're submitting for entitlement. So that could be an option, but they wouldn't be able to submit for an actual entitlement permit like a coastal development permit or building permit associated by code.
And because they received placement on the list and their Measure D allocation, they wouldn't be able to apply for a CDP in any case until they had both the allocations that were required.
Correct.
But they could go through the preliminary design process between now and September.
Based on my interpretation, I would say so, but the director, yeah.
Okay, great.
Sorry, next question.
Can we get confirmation on that? Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
In the September allocations, does somebody who has this type of situation get any advantage in the list that they've gotten ADU already and they're just looking for the single-family unit?
During the transfer process, City Council has discretion as to how they choose to award the transfer allocations. They don't have to go with the scoring like we do right now. The code allows for more flexibility there. And so there could be a recommendation from the Planning Commission. I believe that occurred last year where it was recommended that some of these applicants right at the line or with discrepancies would be prioritized during that transfer process. And so the council could choose to prioritize this applicant to ensure no matter how many transfers, this is the first to receive it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hernandez, I'm opening up to discussion. Yes, wait a second.
So it is my understanding that City Council has provided direction on the Measure Ds so that a half allocation for a Measure D would be counted for an ADU, 0 for a JDU. And that's something that's working its way through city staff and would require going, I think, I'm not sure if it's going to come to us, but it's certainly going to go to City Council for approval.
It will come to you. It will be an amendment to the code and to the LCP, so it'll come to you first.
And do you have a time frame on when that would happen?
Well, it's interesting. Akoya and I were just discussing that today. So our first priority is to get the rezoning done that HCD required of us so we can be in compliance with the housing element. Second priority is then the code amendments for Measure D. Okay. And all the while that is happening, we're also updating the implementation plan. So it could be that those code amendments get folded into the implementation plan update. just because we're pretty much redoing the entire implementation plan. So,
So is
I mean, it's a complete overhaul, so.
Is that 2028, October 2026? Like,
No, we would bring the Measure D amendments forward sooner. We wouldn't wait until the end for that. But what Akoi and I did establish today was that we can't, I wanted to do them together, and we can't package them together because the research required for the Measure D amendments will slow down the zoning amendments, and we need to get in compliance with our housing element, unfortunately.
Okay.
I mean, fortunately, we can get in compliance, but unfortunately, we can't package the two together, so.
Okay, thank you. My inclination, would be to, if the applicant at, I think it's 544 Filbert, wanted to let 303 Filbert go first, then I'd be sure, that's great. But it sounds like their intent is to get their allocation, their partial allocation taken care of today. So I'm fine with that. And it's not something I feel super strongly about. I will say that the direction we've been given from City Council has been to get more housing done more quickly. I think the bigger issue is, and maybe it doesn't work this year, is we don't need to wait 6 months for the reallocation process to happen. I'd recommend a 30-day process, or something that's administratively workable, given that there might be appeals that are filed, so maybe a 60-day cycle or something like that. That's the thought that occurs to me. But otherwise, I'm fine with approving this as it's come before us.
Commissioner Del Negro.
So to be clear, you'd like to attach a recommendation onto this for the 60-day? Okay.
Yeah, I would like to attach a recommendation for the allocation to happen 30 to 60 days, whatever is administratively feasible.
Do you have anything else?
I do not. I mean, my biggest question coming in tonight was, about that partial assignment. Clearly, I've heard from both the applicant and from council what's going on. City.
I think you can make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the item before us, that we have received the Measure D allocation ranking. We've reviewed it and we approve it, and we approve the 544 Filbert to get a partial allocation. And we also have a recommendation that City Council consider changing the reallocation process from downtown to a 30-day period versus a 6-month period if it's administratively feasible.
Second.
I will second that.
Roll call, Bridget.
Commissioner Del Negro,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hernandez,
Yes.
and Chair Gorin.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Congratulations on your approval.
Before Akoi gets up, I just wanted to let you know this is her last Planning Commission meeting. She is moving on, unfortunately. But she did manage to secure herself a nice senior planner position in another city.
Congratulations, Akoi.
Congratulations.
It's been good to have you here.
Congratulations. I don't wish ill in any other city, but I hope it's a terrible experience when you come back.
Thank you.
That moves us on to our item 1B. It's our 2025 housing element and general plan annual progress report. Scott's going to take care of that, and that is Scott Phillips. And this is just to confirm receipt of this progress report. Scott.
Thank you, Chair Gorn and members of the Planning Commission. As mentioned, this is the Housing Element and General Plan Annual Progress Report. I'll go through a quick presentation, a little overview. Let's see. So the general plan consists of 7 required elements: the land use, circulation, open space, safety, noise, conservation, and housing. General plan annual progress report is, after the city council takes a look at it, is submitted to the governor's office along with the annual progress report for the housing element. And both need to be submitted by April 1st. Now, housing element, according to state law, all housing elements must identify and analyze existing and projected housing needs and have a series of goals and policies and establish objectives and identify financial and other resources that may be available in each city. Now, housing element, we're in cycle 6, 2023 to 2031. This is the third report of 8 during cycle 6 that we'll be presenting to the Planning Commission. And we are on our way to meeting our required regional housing needs allocation, or referred to as RHNA. One thing to note, our housing element was certified last month, so we're very excited about that. A couple of follow-up items. Let's see. And then more about the regional housing allocation numbers. This is essentially Table B within the housing element report. It kind of gives us a snapshot of the RHNA numbers that are required for Half Moon Bay, and then what we've fulfilled thus far. And this is based off of residential building permits issued. So the intent is that once a new residential unit building permit is issued, it's gone through Measure D and coastal development permit process, building permit review, building permit is issued, it's assumed that the unit will get constructed and count towards our required RHNA numbers. Now, per HCD's direction, ADU affordability levels are spread across all, the various affordability levels that you see on this chart. And notice that there are 2 new ones this year. We have acutely low and extremely low. So those are the 2 that have been added. And as for right now, per HCD's guidance, they count towards our very low remaining RHNA counts. So all 3 categories count towards very low. Now, just a couple of notes. Creekside was definitely our biggest producer of RHNA numbers this year. We issued a building permit for the 4-plex that's under construction fairly close to the community center here. 4 single-family residences, and then 1 ADU, more to come in 2026. So we're very happy about that, and our housing developer that's close to here to the community center. And now just a little bit about the program implementation. This is Table D in the housing element report. Program 1-2, objective design standards. We do have the interim standards that are in place. We intend to return to the Planning Commission for permanent ODS review in the near future. Program 1-5, production of sort of encouraging the development of ADUs. We did issue 11 building permits in 2025 for ADUs, so that's roughly about the same as last year. So we're also happy about that, and our housing resources. We have various resources on our website. We try and encourage the development of housing and work with some of our partners in the community, including Abode and Coastside Hope. And let's see, programs 3-4 and 3-5. We have essential workers and large households that we try and encourage the development of. Some examples of that, 555 Kelly, Stone Pine Cove, and then the fourplex at Creekside. All the idea is to cater towards essential workers. Now, program 548 also is related to this, encourages the development of affordable housing on publicly owned lands. We, as I mentioned earlier, 555 Kelly and Stone Pine were both public lands set aside for developing housing. As mentioned earlier, this is really more of the opportunity for the Planning Commission to review and acknowledge receipt of both progress reports. Our next steps are to present this to City Council on March 17th, and then submit to HCD as well as the Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation, LCI, by April 1st. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Vice Chair Hernandez.
What happens if we don't hit the number by the end of the cycle? What indications have we gotten from the state about what the implications are?
I don't know the answer to that question. And I do know that it's pretty common for cities not to hit the mark. And
is builder's remedy something that comes into play if we don't hit our number between now and the end of the cycle?
They will, the HCD will hold us out of compliance, in which case builder's remedy is possible. However, it is the city's position that builder's remedy does not apply in the coastal zone.
Understood. The last time we got an update on our last progress report we had, I asked that we have kind of an indication of where we would be based on projects that we saw that were foreseeable. So like 555 Kelly or this project on Main Street. And I think before this comes back to City Council, I know the mayor will want to see the likelihood, the probable projects that we have before us that are in the planning process that are going to allow us to hit that number. Because I understand the city's position, but I don't want us to have to litigate with the state because we're a small city. And builder's remedy should be taken off the table if at all possible. So it'd be great when this comes back. If you have the numbers in front of you now, great. But I think more importantly for City Council, I know they're going to want to see the likelihood that we're going to hit our number. And that kind of opens up a conversation around what we can do to make sure we get there.
Thank you.
Commissioner
We'll make sure it
Del Negro.
goes to council.
Del Negro.
I'm not sure I know of any city that hits their number. I don't know how many cities have actually hit their number. I don't think I can name a single one. So I think the process here obviously is a target that's unachievable for anybody. Holding everybody accountable is probably unlikely. Same time, obviously we do our best to enable as much as possible to meet our goals. But I don't see litigation as really a likely outcome from this because of that.
It may not be litigation, but abuse. It's time, effort, and energy, right? I mean, if we have a goal, we should hit it. We should protect our community and if nobody hits the goal, that's one thing, but other communities do hit the goal. And they're going to hit the goal. So.
Anything else?
Do you want to open up for public comment?
Pardon me?
Public comment?
If anyone is online and wants to raise their hand now is the time to do it. And seeing none, I am not going to open public comment. We'll take it back here.
I agree with you. The formula is a mystery. And my understanding is the more housing you build, then the more housing you have to build for HCD, right? So it's a formula based on how much you have. But I think you look at what's going on in Pacifica with the builder's remedy problem they're having there with this massive project. I think it's something we want to try to avoid if at all possible.
Well, just to be clear, the only one who has said the words builder's remedy has been the builder. So, do we have a motion?
I make a motion to acknowledge that we've received the progress report and provided direction that we forecast what we know when this goes to City Council.
I can second the motion.
We need a roll call.
Commissioner Del Nagro,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hernandez,
Yes.
and Chair Gorn.
Yes, please.
Motion approved.
Great. That brings us to Director's Report. And I know that you have a few things to talk about. I'm assuming that one of them is going to be the letters that we've gotten from Brigida Bauer.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
I can start there, as a matter of course. Yeah, so you have a couple letters from Brigida Bauer, who lives in El Granada, about the RV park in the Harbor District that's right next to Surfers Beach. So she alleges that there are public access improvements that were never put in, and that the Harbor District is out of compliance with their city permit. Scott and I visited the site together, met the harbor master out there. We found that they are largely in compliance with their permit. There are some sort of what we would term outdated requirements, and we did identify improvements that could be made to signage in the public access, which the Harbor District is working on, but those really go above and beyond the permit requirements as they stand now. And then there is one minor violation. They were supposed to submit a report that tracks the RV usage over a full year. So we gave them extra time to do that, since there's a lot of data that they need to put into a report. So our position is that they are largely in compliance, and that's where we hold it now. If you would like us to put this on the agenda to discuss at a future time, we're happy to do that. Moving on from that, I'm going backwards here on my list now. Last week you heard the Pillarcitos Creek fence project and you approved it, and you recommended that, or last meeting I should say, and you recommended that we extend the fence to Belleville. And I just wanted to let you know that our interim public works director has communicated with the property owners. Those are the property owners that showed up to the meeting, and they've given permission to run the fence along their property, along the edge of that trail, all the way to Belleville. So that looks like it will be doable. We are talking to the consultant who worked on the CEQA evaluation, the biological report, on how we extend that to cover the fence, and we think we're in good shape there.
That's so quick, thank you.
Yeah. We'll have to thank Todd for that. And also, we hired 2 new planners, an associate planner, and an assistant planner. So we had 2 vacancies, one from our former housing coordinator and one from our former senior planner. And we underfilled with an associate and assistant planner in hopes of promoting in the future. The day we made the decision on who we were going to hire, I heard from Akoe that she was leaving. So we will go back out to hire again. And we will once again look for a senior planner. As you know, we looked for a senior planner last fall and we didn't find any candidates we were happy with. So we'll start there again.
That's the Doug Garrison position.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Since we last met, we issued a couple tree removal permits and a sign permit for Half Moon Bay Brewery. That was it. And next meeting, we will bring before you a project at 925 San Mateo Road. That's at Curly and Reds. They are proposing storage units in the back of that lot. And Scott will bring forward a Verizon tower on Carter Hill.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
I will bring it back to commissioners. Do you have anything that you would like to report? Commissioner Hernandez.
I had the great pleasure of sitting in a webinar by Cal Wild today. They talked about photography of wildlife in California and what's being done to protect wildlife. But the photos are amazing, and I'm going to get a recording and I'll share it with you guys. But it's one of my favorite parts of it is this guy captured photos of bobcats in the area, and they're just absolutely stunning and spectacular. And it's inspiring to see somebody who's in his early 20s just getting national recognition for the photography. And he also was the first person to photograph a particular shrew that had never been photographed alive before. So it's pretty cool. But anyway, it's one of the great things about the work we do here is we are protecting wildlife. And, sometimes you got to squint to realize the good work we're doing. But I think it's something I'm proud of. And, if you guys, I'll send you the link after this.
Thanks. Commissioner Del Negro.
I guess I will share that I had an opportunity to see the contest across the street for the robotics. And it was really awesome to see that many kids that excited about something
From
and
all
doing so
over
much.
California.
Yeah, it was impressive. And I love seeing all the number of people that came to Half Moon Bay for these tournaments, shopping downtown, seeing Half Moon Bay. It's always a positive. I think anytime we have a chance to promote, academic tournaments in high schools, competitive sports tournaments, I always see great turnouts.
They went to the World Championship their first year.
Yeah, I heard that.
2022. That was awesome.
Let's go pumpkin bots.
Yeah, pumpkin bots, yeah.
Well, let's just say congrats to the high school basketball team, both the boys and the girls. But what happened tonight? I know they're playing tonight. So it's the NorCal Division IV Championship. So that's cool. Good for them. Anybody else?
I have one other thing.
Yes.
Recently, neighbor fell down. Nobody there to help. People keep an eye out for your neighbor. I haven't seen somebody in a while. Want to check on them, knock on the door, say hi. I think it's always a good idea. I'm glad that we had somebody in our neighborhood did it for a neighbor next to us. So it was actually quite a nice thing. Just a reminder.
Good. Thanks. Commissioner Hernandez.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
That motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 We are adjourned.